Hey, what's up, everybody? If you're watching this, you may have seen my last podcast episode with Jack Boudreau from TikTok. In that episode, we had a great conversation about the challenges of breaking into a role in high finance coming from a non-target school. If you didn't watch the podcast and this is the first video you're seeing, then no worries at all. I think this will be extremely valuable to you. And as a quick introduction, my name is Cameron Galbraith, and I am a finance professional here in New York City. I also went to school at the University of Florida, which is a great school, but by no means, and as much as it pains me to say this, not a target school for finance. So I certainly understand the struggles and the challenges of going through this process, and I think Jack knows it just as well. For some additional context on Jack, he went to school at Butler University in Indianapolis. It is a small school in Indy, most recognized for almost winning the NCAA championship against Duke a few years ago. And as much as it's an amazing story from March Madness, it's not really super well known for breaking into finance. But that didn't stop Jack from landing a role at JP Morgan's investment bank, and then he leveraged that experience to pivot to the private banking side in Chicago, and then eventually to Techstars, which culminated in him now starting his own startup, Habits. Just because you're from a non-target school does not mean that it is not possible to break into finance, break into whatever company you want. It certainly is possible, but you have to be willing to put in the work. So I'm going to cut now to a clip from that podcast episode, but make sure to stick around to the end of the video where I will provide some additional thoughts on this topic. Enjoy.
You have to recognize that you have to take it upon yourself. The best analogy that I often kind of use, and I share this in a lot of my TikTok videos, is if you're trying to get somewhere, whether that's like a Wall Street bank or you're trying to get into like a McKinsey or BCG or, just some sort of role that's very, very competitive, you have to recognize that if thousands of people want it, you have to outwork 1,000 people, and you have to do it independently. So you have to usually spend thousands of hours independently figuring that out. And so what I did at Butler was, when I came back from a study abroad experience, that's when I decided, okay, I want to get into finance. And I probably had an Excel sheet that probably then, by the end of my senior year, I started at my junior year, by the end of it, I probably had over 1,500 names on it. And these were people that I had individual conversations with. So this isn't like outreach. This is, hey, I've had a conversation with this person. And it was from everything from some random credit union in Indianapolis to Goldman Sachs, M&A, like right my side, all over the place. And then did 35 super days. And none of this Butler helped me with. But I think that's the difference between those who make it and those who don't, is that do you have the ability to be self-sufficient and to figure it out? And also, at Butler, I had a long-term mindset. So I said to myself, okay, maybe I won't get into like this analyst program, but I'll get to, that role by 25 or 30. And I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Keep a long-run mentality. Things don't often happen on your terms.
No, I totally agree. I went to school at the University of Florida, which is a great school, but by no means is kind of that typical pipeline to a job on Wall Street. And so for me, of course, you'd have the companies come and recruit on campus, and it was still big Fortune 500 names, but it was for the Atlanta office, for the Tampa, Miami office, whatever it may be. So it's like, sure, yes, plenty of people from UF went to KPMG, but no one really in New York. And what I was mentioning before, it's like, find your competitive advantage, in an application, whatever it may be, because as much as you think you go to a good school, you have a good GPA, you have good campus involvement, everybody else applying has that too. So really finding those ways to differentiate yourself. And I really love what you said about the Excel spreadsheet. I did something similar after kind of having a failure of applying for internships. I still had a great internship, but it wasn't kind of up to what I really wanted. And so senior year, when I was applying for full-time roles, I made an effort that for every single job I applied for, I wanted to at least have a conversation with 2 people, either at the company or related to that role.
Good. Yeah.
And so from there, it was just amazing kind of how quickly those calls and those relationships could compound, where, fortunately at UF, it's a big school. So a lot of times you have at least some sort of connection to a company. Yeah. But it was just amazing how, okay, I'll have one conversation, they'll introduce me to their manager. And it was unbelievable, the amount of offers that I got where it seemed like, really, that was quick. So that was just a really interesting thing that I always just implore everybody to do. It's really easy now, especially to just spam the applications. It's all Google autofill, but it's really important to stand out. And of course, a lot of people are still having those conversations and networking, but it really is one of those things that's just overlooked. And, if you're at one of those schools, you can't just be reliant on your guidance counselor and your missions people to really help you, because that's just not how it works.
Cameron, it actually gives me hives when I take the time to speak to a student and we're 5 minutes into the conversation and I hear they haven't spoken to their career mentor. They haven't, all they've done is apply on a handshake or on LinkedIn. Sure. And I'm like, oh my God, you're not even, you haven't begun yet. What you have done is you've gotten like the comfort of putting yourself out there, but it's kind of like the mentality of like why I decided to start posting on TikTok, because the greatest way to learn more about yourself, to learn your competitive advantage, is get yourself out there. Fall forward, fall on your face. I mean, I will never forget, Cameron. I went to a super day at BMO Harris. I had to drive up to Chicago for it from Indianapolis. I'm in the car, and like those like coffee thermoses where like when you have to unravel, but it's kind of like a hydro flask, right? Where it's not like a sippy cup kind of a thing. And at some point, I was like just sipping it, and I don't know what happened, like a bump, and just all of it fell right on me. And so I walk into that interview with just a massive coffee stain, because I was already 2 hours from the drive. It's like, right, I'm like, but you want to know what? Then whenever I went on to another interview, any super day, I always packed a second shirt with me. Like, it's all like little things that you then learn to make sure that any opportunity that you have, you can take advantage of it. But talking about this just kind of reminded me and set me off, because I'm so passionate about the people who put in the work to get to where I'm.
All right, just to add a little bit more to that conversation, I think the underlying principle is you have to be willing to go above and beyond what you even think is necessary to make this happen. I think a lot of schools and business schools act like, oh, all you need to do is apply and network with the recruiter and you'll be fine. But realistically, that's just not how it works. That may be the case if you're at Harvard and the recruiter has a quota to get 50 students from your class into the internship program. But at a school where maybe the company doesn't even recruit at, that's just not feasible. So it is so important for you to go out of your way, connect with the analysts, the associates, talk with them, understand the process of applying for the internship, for the full-time roles, whatever it may be. Also, like we talk about in that, find your competitive advantage. As much as you think you have a good GPA and you're from a good school, everybody else applying has the exact same thing. So find ways to stand out. Put yourself in the shoes of the person who is literally looking at your resume. I mean, it's important to be realistic with yourself. And I don't necessarily mean differentiate yourself by saying, oh, I just really have a passion for finance. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I wanted to do since I was 17. That's great, but that's not tangible. That's really easy for you to say in the heat of the moment, but at the end of the day, it doesn't make you stand out. Competitive advantages come down to things that you have that no one else can have. So for a lot of people that I speak to who reach out to me through this YouTube channel, maybe they have an international background. They came to the US from a different country. Okay, maybe there's some other students who did that, but that is a very unique experience. That gives you a much more global perspective, and you understand different cultures and how to interact and maybe what big industries are in the country that you're from. Or maybe you are a college athlete. You understand the importance of teamwork and working towards a goal. No, I'm not saying mention how you were captain of your varsity basketball team in high school, but if you are a college athlete, it kind of has a little bit more weight. For lack of better terms, taking advantage of your competitive advantage is something you just need to do. It's yours for a reason, and it's part of you. So use it. And most importantly, don't just think that because you sent in your application that you have an equal chance. Realistically, most applications just go into the void. So make sure to reach out and connect with people at the company, people on the team. Trust me, that does make a difference. And of course, always leverage your own network as much as possible. As small or as bad as you think your school may be, chances are there's still someone from your school who is at that company or in that industry. Those are the people you should seek out and talk to, because they're going to understand the struggles and the challenges of navigating landing a role there more than anybody else. They know what it's like to apply from your school, and they obviously did it successfully. So those are the people who are going to be the most helpful compared to anybody else. So that is going to wrap up the video. I'm going to get off my soapbox. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got some value out of it. As always, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Reach out with any questions that you might have. I am happy to be a resource in any way. Also, make sure to subscribe to this channel because I post new videos every single week, all aimed at helping you level up your life and career. Also, follow Jack on TikTok. He is constantly putting out some amazing content. And with that said, I will see you in the next one. Peace.
that relationships will often end in disgust. And I know you want my love, but there's nothing to discuss. I don't need you in my life.